everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Mike DeLizio.
I'm Chris Yee.
Today we're taking a look at Galileo Project, in which the theme of this is we are colonizing the moons of Jupiter. Sure, but
Tracks, baby.
It's a really cool cover,
Yeah.
and it's made by Sorry We Are French, which is turning into a company that, if they publish a game, I'm very interested in it.
Very much, yeah. They've done some good stuff.
Not only have they done really good games, but I love having that logo that says "Sorry, we're French" in big bold, just facing out of my game shelf.
So, Chris is going to show us how to play it, and we'll be right back.
I'm going to give you a brief overview of Galileo Project. I won't be teaching all of the rules here because there's a bit going on, but the idea of the game, this is the central board here that houses all of the resources, the cards that you'll be gathering, technologies, and endgame scoring objectives. This over here is a player board. Everyone will have their own, so there are up to 4 around the table. These represent tracks that'll give you bonus abilities and endgame points if you move your marker far enough on there. And you will be adding cards to the side here. You'll be building up these robot cards to move further on tracks. You'll be gathering these player cards here to gain resources, and then you'll be gaining these technologies, which will either give you instant or ongoing benefits. So on a player turn, you'll either grab a robot card, a person card, or a technology card. If you instantly meet one of these requirements at any point in your turn, you can gain these points here as endgame points. Points will come from moving on tracks, completing bonuses, and then completing the bottom part of these cards here that you might tuck underneath your player board. So that's the main areas where you get points. Let's talk about what a basic turn looks like. You will be spending resources off of this track here. You see that you have blue on the top or red on the bottom. This is the resources, the currency that you have to pay for robot cards. You have to spend the matching type of currency, either red or blue, and you will only ever be on the red track or on the blue side of the track at any given time. So since I have 7 red, my action could be to purchase this robot card by spending 7 steps of the red track. If I do so, I'll take this robot and I'll place it into the matching moon of Jupiter that shows on the card here. If there are multiple, you choose which one it goes to. This is going to give you 3 steps on that track. And if you cross any bonuses, you get those immediately. And then you can carry out the action shown on the robot card itself. This one lets you upgrade the steps of that robot card. So I could turn a 3 into a 4, or I could upgrade other robot cards if I had more. The bonus that you carry out on that action will be multiplied by the number of that type of robot you have anywhere in front of you. So this would allow me to upgrade a robot 2 steps, 1 for each of these that I have here. So I could turn this 4 into a 6 if I wanted. That is one of the basic actions. Let's quickly talk about the other actions you get from building robots. This one here will give you poker chips, these mega credits. This one here will let you grab a satellite bonus. Depending on the number of satellites you have, you can look further down this little tracker here and gain one of these bonuses optionally. And then this one here would allow you to grab a person card and grab either the top or the bottom instant benefit. And you can do that based on the number of these that you have. Now let's talk about person cards. These ones here are how you gain resources, steps on this track in order to be able to afford more robots. So on your turn, you're either grabbing a robot, grabbing a person, or grabbing a technology. So let's take a look at grabbing one of these resource gathering cards. Each card will show here a number of steps on the side, and the track that you move up depends on whether you take a blue benefit or a red benefit from the card. So the top part is always an instant benefit, whether it's red or it's blue, and the bottom part is a tucking benefit underneath your player board. Once again, whether it's red or it's blue, the bottom is always tucking here for endgame scoring, and the top part is always gaining resources immediately. So if I grabbed this one and I chose the top part, because it's blue, I would move up the 6 steps on the blue side of the track, and I could gain a poker chip. But let's say that I was already a few steps up on the red side of the track. If I wanted to grab this card for the 6 steps, I would either have to choose the red bonus and tuck it under my player board, or I could spend a mega credit, poker chip, to slide to the blue side of the track, gain 6 steps in blue, and be allowed to choose the top part of the benefit. And if I did that, this card is just discarded, and then it would refill. So you see that there's a mix of red on top, blue on top, red on bottom, blue on bottom, and that once again, bottom is always tucked under your player board for endgame scoring, and the top is an instant bonus. Over here, the technologies, you have to spend these science energy tokens and or a mix of poker chips in order to get these, and you will be collecting these, giving you instant bonuses or ongoing points. If at any point you meet one of these requirements over here, you immediately get to put your ribbon in the first person to show that you're the first person to have done that, have 8 poker chips, for example, or tuck more cards, or whatever these conditions are. You can also spend this energy to reduce those requirements. So if I was sitting at 7 poker chips, I could spend one of these energy tokens as the 8th, and I could say, I am good and I've got that completed. So that's what you're doing. You're either building bots to move up on tracks, you're gathering these people to help you, or building technologies. There are little actions here that'll let you customize cards and build your own cards as to allow you to activate new cards that you specifically have created. There's ways that you can manipulate this track easier, and there are discounts that you can get for building up robots, and that's what the tracks do. You'll see that a majority of points come from moving up the tracks, from tucking cards underneath, and then a few other points as well. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner when someone has either built 10 robots or this entire player deck has been gone through, and that is Galileo Project.
So the theme here is, well, I wouldn't say it's non-existent. It's kind of there a little bit.
The board says casino for some reason?
I think you're building a casino on one of the moons.
Is that what the project is? Is
It's all about
project
money.
making money?
Yeah, but it's about mechanisms.
This game is not theme forward, I don't think. Now the presentation is beautiful. I love the art, that kind of fractal art.
Fractal, that's a great word for it.
Yeah, I really like the look. It's very bright and vibrant with the dark undertones. So I like the look of the game, and those poker chips, while absolutely unnecessary, are
Amazing.
fantastic. So
Production's solid.
yeah, that's what gives me kind of the theme, is the look of it. But I don't feel like
Production's solid, except for that I'm tired of. The people should, again, this was the game that got me all riled up about parodies. Again, another Spock.
Yeah, that's
I'm like,
true.
come on.
That is true.
I'm tired of Spock being in every sci-fi game. This is a realistic theme. Then use realistic people.
That's true. Yeah, they didn't need to do that.
So, but anyway, the boards are great. I really like the player boards. So it's about moving up tracks, which is one thing. But the game is interesting. The idea of having it's not kind of a currency.
The red or the blue track.
The red or the blue
currency.
track. That's completely unique to this game. Pain in the butt to teach, by the way.
It really is. It's not
Yes.
intuitive. That is one thing. Is that it's not. It wasn't to me. I'll speak for myself. It wasn't. It really took me a while, because I kept wanting to conflate the blue and the red with the top or the bottom of a card, and that's not necessarily the case, right? It could be either side of the card.
And I've seen people conflate it with the top row or the
Yes.
bottom row of cards.
I think that there's some shorthand that gamers develop, and this breaks with some of that shorthand. It did for me. It's clever, and I understand why they did it, because there's really essentially 3 currencies, right? There's the red and the blue, and then the poker chips.
Well, there's also science or
The energy token.
And the energy tokens too. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And yet, at the same time, the core of this game feels like a very midweight, very elegant Euro game. You either get cards to get resources or spend resources for one of the other 2 types of things.
Right.
But it's kind of enveloped in these like accoutrements of like more complicated Euro games.
Yeah.
You know, some of the Euro games that we're too dumb to like. You know, but like you have to spend chips to move from the red to the blue side of the track, and sometimes you need to do that just to even gain a card that lets you get resources, because you want to take the instant effect on the red side, but I'm on the blue, and so you're planning these things out. You're jumping through a lot of hoops to do a very simple thing.
That's true.
Get resources, so that next turn, buy robot card.
But one thing I really like about the game is the getting resources or buying the robot. Those are the 2 opposites. In most games, one of those actions is more boring than the other. And in this one, I find them both interesting. If I take a human to gain that currency in the middle, I'm also getting a benefit.
Yeah.
It's not as good as the robot, but it's close. Or it could be as good as the robot, because it could be victory points at the end.
Yeah.
I really like that back and forth. I never sit there and think, oh, this is a downturn. Even if my turn is the third option, which is buying the tech, then you feel really good. You're like, now I got this awesome tech.
Right.
And turns are pretty quick.
They are pretty quick. Yeah, I mean, you could sometimes have a situation where you are planning on a specific card, and if that gets taken, you do have to kind of adjust and pivot.
Sure.
But that didn't happen terribly often in the games that I played. So, yeah, no, it's relatively quick. Not a lot of downtime. It's a game that I feel like the pace and the flow is just about where it should be.
The place where it's just a bit wrong is the teach.
Yes, that's true.
And not only is that red-blue track confusing, and I taught it last night to someone who is not really like a gamer who has developed a lot of shorthand, and so it was even worse. It was more confusing for this poor person.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, look, I'm going to teach things throughout because they were kind of ready to jump in the game.
Yeah.
And so 2 turns later, hey, by the way, these are objectives that you're trying to score. 2 turns after that, by the way, now that you have some of the pink energy resource, you can reduce the objective amount by those things. Great mechanism.
Right.
Hard to teach all of these things up front and keep someone's interest.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty mid-weight, smooth game that has a lot of these not as smooth edges to it.
Yeah.
By the way, has that been done in a game before, where you can buy your way out of doing an objective? It's neat, actually.
I love it.
That is really cool. That allows you to kind of, especially in a race.
You did a really fun one.
I did.
Where there was an objective Mike had no chance of getting, and he just straight up bought it, and I didn't even realize he was going to do that. I'm fighting Chris for this objective, and Mike's like, nah, I'm first.
I'm just going to take it.
It was the most points. It was the top one.
Yep.
First place. Like,
yeah, and I was like, I have no chance to win this, so I'm just going to buy it. So yeah, that's a very cool thing. But yeah, it is that kind of push-pull of the game itself is not very complex, but there's just some kind of odd things that make it, on one hand, unique.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, a bit tough to wrap your head around at first.
My only complaint about the game, other than it's hard to teach, which I can get over, is I felt, and this is very, very minor, it feels 5% too long. Just a smidge. Maybe I get over that. You said it was faster with 2.
Absolutely. Yeah. The deck is a lot thinner. You take out cards based on player count. And I will say that it was a nail biter in that there were 3 cards left in the timer deck, the person deck, as someone built the 10th robot. And I like that tension of like, oh, it could go either way. I think it's well made in so many ways.
So what would you give it?
So this is a tricky one. I do like the game. I do recommend it, but I'm coming in at a 7 because I do feel like there's
that's positive. Just as a heads up, everyone.
That is a positive. That is a recommendation, ladies and gentlemen. Why it's not a higher recommendation is a couple of things we talked about. Is that I do think that it's going to be limiting a little bit in that it's tougher to teach for the weight of game it is. Again, this is not a heavyweight game, but it has a longer teach than maybe you would expect. I do agree it's maybe a little bit longer than it needs to be, but it does some very cool things. Those things that make it harder to teach make it unique. So it's a 7. It's a recommendation, but just be aware that you may have some trouble teaching it to new players.
I'm also coming in at a 7, actually, because of the same reasons. I think the things that make it unique are things that I look and go, that could have been smoothened out a little bit. I think a different game would have smoothed it out, but then it might just become yet another game that gets lost in the shuffle.
Right.
So I'm kind of 2 minds. I like the fact that it is unique, that you have these extra things like paying to get the objectives and just other things that give it some more life and some character to it. But also, I had a rougher time teaching it last night, and so as I teach it more, I'll figure out how to word things smoother and when to pace things. But that matters to me, maybe more than other people. If you have like a steady game group that wants to get into this, I bet that it'll be higher than a 7 for you because you won't have those first play obstacles or first teach obstacles. But I like it.
I'm at a 7.5. I really do like it. It's a very solid game. I enjoy the mechanisms. I really like the red and blue track. It's just interesting to me. Also, you're moving up 4 different tracks. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
I also am a big fan of you can't do everything in this game. You can collect a whole out of one robot or a few of multiple robots. The objectives do a good job of balancing it out. Do you want to get that energy for the science stuff? Skip it. When you collect those chips, do you want to do it because you want to make robots cheaper in the future? Or are you using them for other things? the whole thing is interesting, and I just found every turn I got to do something fun, which is a big deal to me.
Sure.
Because that whole I'm going to pass this turn and take $2, which a lot of games do, which is fine, and then Mike takes 5 minutes on his turn, is not as interesting to me as this. No, I'm just saying
No,
it because,
I know, I'm just kidding.
because you picked a bigger turn.
Right, of course.
Here, all the turns feel about the same. I take a robot, I do stuff.
Yep.
I take a human, I do stuff. But either way, I'm doing things. Nothing ever felt restrictive. You can only have 2 humans on the bottom of your board, but I can
Bump up
get
that
more as
track.
time goes by. I can't find this robot. Well, I'll build my own and stick it in the spot that I want that robot to be in.
Right.
So it works well. I think this is one that's going to appeal to a certain group of people, right? But I also think some people are going to pass it by. I think it's definitely one that you should consider trying just because it has a unique feel.
Yep.
So that's Galileo Project. I'm Tom Vassal.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
I'm Chris Yee.
We'll see you in Jupiter.
Ooh.